would be.
Fair enough.
We're going to talk about games. We're going to talk about lots of games today. So there are many people in this world that love to play games, and there are many people in this world that love to play games, but they're not good at it. Yeah. And I feel that I fall more into the not good at it. I think that I luck into winning more than anything else, but I love strategy games. I love like Risk, and I love oh my gosh, there's all kinds of other games that take some sort of a brain power to play them. I love Munchkin. That's maybe not as a thinking type of
cerebral,
a thing. Yeah, but you still have to think about how you're going to do things and whatever else. I love games that are not necessarily open-ended, but that you can kind of evolve it and allow it to evolve, so you don't have the same stagnant game over and over again. So I know that Tony, you have a passion beyond passion about gaming and Gen Con and anything and everything related to that. So this episode, for those that are listening in, this is going to be very Tony heavy. Tony's going to be talking quite a bit, and that's okay. There is nothing wrong with that. We're going to be talking about 3 different games today, and all 3 of these games are games that Tony has introduced to me and my wife and our family and our friends, and it's already spreading to some of my other friends with Daryl and Michael and Noah and all kinds of other friends. So, Tony, start us off with what's kind of the big game that you love playing right now. What's the game that is your default to go to?
Well, I mean, the default right now, and again, my passion, like you said, my passion for the game is similar to yours. I like that deep strategy. I like having those kind of options of things you can do with not just like a candy land where it's like, start to finish and just kind of go through the motions type of thing. And that may be accented by the fact that I do have a 4-year-old and I have to play Candyland with her all the time. And it's, games like that, are fine for the kids, but I like those deep strategy games. I'm not hardcore into, a lot of people, when you hear games and you hear gamers, you think some of the default settings for people in their minds, and this is obviously not accurate, but in the general public, when you say gamer, you either think of somebody on their couch zoned out in front of a Xbox or something like that, or you think of the guys in the basement with their helmets on playing Dungeons and Dragons till 3 a.m. All very cool stuff, but my passion lies more in those kind of almost like the evolution of the board games. Like you said, there's Risk and Clue and things like that, but as you graduate from that, you move into some of those games with a little deeper end game in terms of the approach and the strategy and how you can play the game and things like that. So that's kind of what I'm big into. A lot of those fall into some board games, some are card games. The one that I'm big into right now is a card-based game, and it's called Star Realms. It was a game that was kickstarted, I think, just last year. It became a Kickstarter, and it was very successful. It made its money and then some. It came out as a deck of cards. Essentially, it's a 2-player game, but it can be expanded to more if you buy multiple decks, of course. But so yeah, Star Realms is the ability to play it in that kind of 2-player mode, 4-player mode if you want. But because it's card-based, it's also pretty portable. The good news about it is that the way that the strategy kind of plays out.
Pretty portable means that it's easy to be moved, not it looks really good as you move it around.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yes. Portable means that I don't have to take an entire gaming system to my friend's house if I want to play it, or I don't have to, get it involved, set up with thousands of meeples and things like that, which, those are fun in their own right. But if you got, an hour or 2 to kill, you don't really have time for all that kind of stuff. So
No.
But Star Realms, the quick and dirty of it is obviously the goal is to destroy your opponent. You have hit points that you give out, damage that you give out, and then of course you have your own authority or your own hit points that you try to maintain. And then throughout the game, you can build your deck by purchasing cards that are in a communal trade row. And you can do that by accumulating some of the cards you start with have trade points. So you can use your trade points to buy newer cards. As you buy new cards, they go into your discard pile, and then your discard pile becomes shuffled into your play pile as you exhaust your play cards. So there are ways for you to strategize and build your deck, but the unique thing about it is that you share this trade row where the good cards live with your opponent or your opponents. Everybody has the same opportunity to get some of these cards, and as you take these cards, new cards come out, but it's still a community type of pool. So on your turn, maybe you take a card that your opponent wanted next turn. Maybe you take a few okay cards and they save up their trade to get a really big good card that might come up 1 or 2 times every few turns. So the strategy is very interesting. There's also, within the cards, there are a few different factions where if you play the factions cards together, you get extra points because they're allied with each other. So if you play, two cards from a certain faction at a time, you get even better things. So part of the strategy is, do you go for all the same faction, even though they may not be the best cards? Or do you go for the best cards you can get, even though they may not be the same faction and not help each other as effectively as the other cards could? So it is a pretty deep strategy in terms of how you want to play, the options you have, what you can do versus what your opponent's doing. It's very interesting. It also has a mobile game online that you can play for free, I believe, on the App Store for iOS and also for Amazon and in the Google Play Store. It's just called Star Realms. And you can download it, play it for free through the campaign mode. You can play against the computer. You can also pay a couple bucks and then play online, unlimited games against real opponents that they just randomly assign you with online. And that gives you a good feel for kind of the vibe of the game. I mean, I am in no means an expert. I have about a 60% win rate right now, so I am by no means dominating any leaderboards or anything like that.
Well, I think you said before, it's free. You can download it to learn the game, absolutely free. It's not going to cost you anything to at least get it. I will say this. I think I like it better on a tablet than on a phone because it's basically your entire game play area on your screen and the entire time. One thing that I do like about the mobile version is it doesn't focus so much on the other opponent. It's basically just, here's your cards, here's what's in your hand, here's what's in the play area in the middle, and that's about it. And then it forces you to kind of play the game as it is.
Right.
But saying that, I have a Samsung S5, and it's a great phone. It's a great screen, but I still think that I probably like it more on a tablet of some sort, just to have the ability to see a little bit more of the cards and what's going on with it.
I completely agree, because of the way that the game is set up kind of on a tabletop with a trade row and then your spot and then your opponent's spot, and you play your ships. There are bases involved. You need space for this stuff on a computer or on a phone screen rather. It's very tiny. A tablet's much better. When you buy the full version, you can also go onto their website at starrealms.com and you can download a version for your computer as well. So if you have a Windows or a Mac, you can download it. I play it right here all the time, and it's so much better on my desktop because you can see everything.
Yeah. Right
click, left click. You can do those kind of quick actions. So I've got them here.
So if you're sitting in your cube at your office right now, and you really don't want to do those TPS reports, feel free, visit starrealms.com and they'll get you the hookup. I used to play Magic, and it feels kind of like Magic. So if you're listening to this and you used to play Magic, or you used to play anything that's remotely like that, there's another card game that I used to play called Versus, which is a Marvel DC Magic-esque type of a card game, a deck building game. And it has a lot of those feels in the gameplay because isn't the creator?
Yeah, 2 of the creators of Star Realms were part of I believe, the original development team for Magic. So they have that, obviously, built-in experience of not only knowing how to make a card game go effectively, but how to put in those nuances to make it a different experience every time. So it's not just like, oh yeah, I've got the strategy down, so when I play this guy, I can do this, this, and this and win. And the next guy, this, and this. It's not that way. Every time you play, it's very similar, to if anybody is a crossover and enjoys this stuff as well as sports, it's very similar to like an NFL Any Given Sunday type of thing, where any team really can win any game if the right circumstances happen, things start to go their way. So it is very much that kind of feel that anybody can win at any time. The strategy comes into play. Obviously, a little bit of luck is involved, but it's definitely not one of those you're either got it or you don't. It's one of those things where everybody should have fun because it should be pretty competitive throughout. So.
Absolutely. And it's still relatively new.
Yes.
It's been out for how long do you think?
Probably a little over a year. I think the Kickstarter was sometime last year, and then by the time they got it up in speed and up and running, they're just now coming out with their first. Actually, I think it'll be the first of next year is when they're coming out with their first kind of expansion.
Crisis.
Crisis. That's the one. So, because they have a small expansion called Gambit right now with a few promo cards. But that's available. I think they only officially sell that at conventions. They did the big thing at Gen Con this year.
That makes sense.
There were certain cards for Kickstarter backers as well. But yeah, Crisis is the first wide-scale kind of expansion. And from what I've heard, it's supposed to integrate itself into the game. But of course, you don't need it to play the original. They've been kind of quiet about the specifics. I haven't seen a ton of it. So I'm interested to see when it comes
Crisis?
out. Yeah.
Well, I know that they're doing 4 different types.
Right.
They're doing and they're basically they're packed like booster packs. If you remember Versus or if you remember Magic, they're basically booster packs, but it's conceptually, I believe it's the same grouping of cards in each one of them from what I'm seeing. But they've got 4. One of them is called Crisis Bases and Battleships, and it looks like this is focusing more on ships and bases. Variations for the trade deck.
Yep.
The next one's called Fleets and Fortresses, and then that is more towards your worlds and defenses. They've got a few cards here online. The third one would be Crisis Events. It's a new card type. To quote what they say on their website. First new card type, Events, add some serious fun to the Star Realms experience. When an event enters the trade row, it'll immediately shake up the game, destroying bases, letting players draw extra cards, and more. So it's almost like game intuitive instant abilities, where that card flips up, that event takes place, and it's like, boom, the card that they've got on their website, it's an event called Supernova, and that basically will make all players lose 5 of their, what do they call that again?
Authority,
which is, or their hit points if you're a Magic player. And then you scrap all the cards in the trade row, which the 5 cards that are out there, it's just Supernova. Everybody gets hit with something. So
just things that happen.
Yep, things that happen. And then the final one is Heroes, and this is getting more specific for people. So they're going to be bringing in different heroes of all different types. So I'm actually kind of excited about it. I do not personally own Star Realms. Tony owns 2 copies of it.
Well, yeah, I want to be able to play up to 4 players. So I have 2 of the original copies, and I just picked up a couple of the loose promo cards that they only offer at conventions and things like that. So.
Well, I definitely want to grab some as soon as possible, and you can really find it at any of your local gaming shops or even Amazon. Amazon is kind of your default go-to if your local place doesn't have one, but just like comic book shops, game shops, try to be supportive because these guys are doing it for the passion. I can guarantee you don't make a lot of money working at a comic book shop or working at a gaming store. These people run these businesses because they have a passion for it. So find your local shop, go there, try to support them as much as possible. That way they can keep new and cool things like that going on. So the Star Realms definitely has a really, really neat mobile version. There's another game that we wanted to talk about called Small World that has a great mobile version as well, and it's made by Days of Wonder, who also made Ticket to Ride.
Yes.
So I think Ticket to Ride might be a little bit more popular than Small World, but they both have great mobile versions. A little bit more on the pricey side, I think, on Amazon. I'm sorry, not Amazon, but on Android. Ticket to Ride for their mobile version is like $6 or $7, and Small World is a $10. But it's very clean. It looks very, very good. And again, this is another one of the games that Tony introduced me to. This game I picked up on Star Realms really not really quick, but quicker than on Small World. Small World, there's a lot of very tiny, intricate details that happen with the game, and Tony did a great job teaching me. So I'm going to let him kind of explain what the concept of Small World is, how the overall gameplay happens, and we'll go from there. So, Small World, Tony, this is your official Small World.
Small World, very cool. I like the Small World. Yeah, it off the cuff. Small World at its core, the easiest way for me to describe it in one sentence is it's like a sci-fi fantasy version of Risk. If you've ever played Risk, you kind of know that you've got territories you need to conquer, armies that you can amass, opponents that you need to defeat. Small World is similar to that in its core play. The basis of the game is that the world, essentially the world that you're playing in, the board that you're playing on, is a board-based game, is too small. And it does come prepackaged. You can play the original Small World version. You can play 2 to 4 players, and whether you have 2 to 5 players, 2 to 5, and whether you play 2, 3, 4, or 5, there are different boards for each one. The 2-player board is very small. 3-player board, you flip it over, has more space. 4 and 5 is a totally separate board that has even more spaces on it. So no matter who you're playing with, the board changes, and each one is designed to not give you enough space, where you kind of have to butt into your opponents if you want to survive. There are many different races in Small World. So there's, your humans, elves, orcs, wizards, trolls, all sorts of stuff. Ratmen, yes, that's right. All sorts of quirky fantasy type of people. And the way that you find out who you're going to be to start the game is that you shuffle these, the indicators, the race indicators, you shuffle them and then place 5 up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right in a row. And then with the race modules, each race has a randomly assigned special power. So the special powers change every game, and again, just like the races, there's a set of, I think, maybe 20 of them, and each special power just kind of adds a unique element to the game. Some special powers will let you conquer easier. Some special powers will let you accumulate more victory points when you conquer. There's a wide variety of special powers, so once you put the 5 races on the board for your selection options, then you pair each of them randomly with a special power, and then you go around and everybody gets a chance to accumulate the first person gets the first chance to get whatever race you want, and then you move on from there. Each race and special power combination also tell you how many tokens you're going to get. So if you've got a really good combination of a really powerful race and a really powerful special power, they may only let you get 7 tokens to work with, whereas a mediocre combination might give you 11 or 12 tokens to work with. So there's definitely strategy involved in picking the really good stuff or the just okay stuff that's going to give you more races to work with. And then once you have the race tokens, your job is to conquer as many of the territories as you can. You can go out, conquer your territories. When it's the end of your turn, you can fortify whatever extra race tokens you have and kind of bulk up your territories. And then when it's your opponent's turn, they get to conquer the territories too. And if you're in their way, they conquer you and they bump you right out. And then when it's your turn, same thing. You turn around and conquer territories. So that's why the board is so important, is because, the board is built to kind of force you to fight with your opponents. Mm-hmm. It's not one of those things where, there's 2 players playing on a 5-player board, so I'll stay in my corner.
Just gonna get
you
down
stay
here in
right,
Australia
exactly.
And just build up.
The old Australia gambit. That's right. Yeah, no, you're really forced to interact with your opponents. If you lose too many tokens and you feel like your race isn't doing well on your turn, you can put them into they can go in decline, which means essentially the race is going extinct. You can't fight with them anymore, but they can stay on the board until they're completely eliminated. So they can earn you extra points.
I finally got to play with ghouls.
That's right.
Ghouls is the one race that allows you to play and still fight while going into decline. I did not play them properly, and I lost to my wife. But needless to say, I did finally get to play with him. So there you go.
Yeah, ghouls are one of the exceptions to the rules. But yeah, then the next turn around, obviously, you can pick a new race, fresh tokens, fresh abilities, and continue at it. And at the end of however many turns, based on how many players you're playing, 7, 8, 9, 10 turns, At the end of every turn, you accumulate victory coins or victory points, one for every region that you occupy. And then certain abilities will let you accumulate more victory points. If you have the special ability that says forest, so let's say you're the wizards and you're the forest wizards, any forest territories that you occupy, you get an extra point for that. There are certain ones that let you get an extra coin for every territory that you go into that turn. If you defeat someone and take a territory, you get an extra coin for that, things like that. And then, of course, at the end of the game, whoever has the most victory coins or victory points wins. So
there's two aspects of the game that I really, really enjoy. One, for any game that I play, the replayability of it is huge.
Yep.
And, making light of Candyland, of course. Candyland is one of those games where, yes, it's great and it's wonderful, but it's the same thing. You have your same route that you have to take, and you have to go the same, you roll and you move that many, and then that's it. One of the things that I really like about Small World, and for all intents and purposes, Star Realms as well, is you normally don't have the same game twice.
Definitely.
The special abilities and the races, the way that it's designed is there are significantly more special abilities than there are races. So as you play the game, it's inevitable that you're going to probably start rotating through races. But even that way, the way that the game mechanics are designed is you still won't have the same, forest wizards.
Right.
Once you put them in decline and then they're gone, you're not going to see forest wizards again in that game. Wizards might teal up with something else where, Dragon Master or whatever else. Yeah. But it's just neat that every game that you play, you're going to have something completely and totally different. And that's for somebody that, because games aren't cheap. I mean, it's a $40 game. You want to be able to play it multiple times.
Right.
Sometimes in the same sitting. You finish a game and you're like, I just got owned. No, we're not going to end like that.
We're going again.
I need to do this one more time or until I win, and then we can stop playing. That's a huge thing for people that might not have a completely disposable income.
Sure.
Where that $40, you need to make sure that you're going to get everything out of it that you possibly can. Right. So that was a huge perk for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely a bonus. And like most good or successful games, like you said, not only do you get into that replayability where you can play this one again and again, but then as the games kind of mature and age, there come expansion sets and things that you can add on to the game to give you that new level of entertainment, or you can live without it. I do have one here, but there also exist expansions for Small World, like extra races. There's one that's called Cursed that I think gives you like werewolves and demons, and it gives you new abilities. There's one called women girl power or women or something like that, where it's all female oriented. Amazons, white goddesses, things like that. Witches. There's now, I think they have an underworld.
They do. They have Small World Underground.
That's right, Underground, where you can go. Essentially, it's a whole new type of board where it plays differently. And then the one quote unquote expansion I have here is very similar to what we were just talking about with Star Realms with the Crisis stuff. It's called Small World Tales and Legends, and it's a card-based expansion, but every turn you draw a new card. And the card are like the events that we were just talking about, where it gives you something different to do, where maybe, something has happened, peace has fallen over the land, and if you spend this turn and you don't attack one of your opponents, you get 5 victory coins. So it's your choice to whether you stay static or whether you occupy empty regions and get the extra stuff, or you just say forget it and just keep fighting people. There are auction style things where you and your opponents can take a certain amount of victory coins and blind bid on the chance to go first or something like that. So it just kind of throws those unique elements into the game. We didn't get a chance to play this when we first played because I didn't want to overload you with this kind of stuff. But
Small World, Small World is one of those games where you can easily be overloaded with way too much information.
Yeah, definitely. The first few times I played Small World, I don't feel like I was had a full grasp of it. But now, I mean, once you get up to speed and you kind of get that first game or two under your belt, your enjoyment level ratchets up infinitely. So
yeah, that's what happened with Maggie. She's now really good.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
And you can buy, just like with the mobile app, you can buy. There are in-app purchases that if you want to play the regular Small World, you can do that. It's fully functional the way it is, but you can go onto the app and you can purchase the Cursed expansion for like $1.99, and then you get those extra races and abilities. You can purchase, I don't think you can purchase the Underworld one, but you can purchase all the extra...
The Small World Underground?
Yes, but you can purchase in the app, you can purchase all the extra races and abilities if you so desire. I haven't done it yet, but it seems interesting, so...
I'm very intrigued about that's one that I haven't purchased yet, just because it's a $10 purchase,
right?
And then more money on top of it. The thing that's pulling me towards it though is the multiplayer capability of being able to say, "Hey, I'm going to play with my wife."
Yeah, you can pass and play. You can play online now. You can play with either random opponents or invite people. Definitely keep an eye. My recommendation is keep an eye on the App Store. Bookmark it or save it or whatever. Because I got it when every so often it will go on sale. I got it for $4.99 when it's normally $9.99. So every so often they'll put it on sale for a week or two. So yeah, I mean, if you're not ready to kind of drop $10 on it, which I completely understand, just kind of keep an eye on it. Every so often it'll go on sale, and if that's the time to pull the trigger, do it.
Yep. Unfortunately, right now it's still $10 on both iPad as well as Android, but hey, that's all right. That is all right. Well, the other thing that I really enjoyed about Small World and in pretty much any type of a game is diversity.
Right.
I like when there's different factions and there's different abilities, and it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, there's this race that's good at this, and then there's this other race that's good at that, and then having all kinds of a multitude of different abilities. The third game is called Smash Up, and I think right now that is probably my favorite out of all three that we're talking about today, simply because it combines. I'm a bigger fan of strategy card games, and Small World is very much a board game.
Right.
Star Realms, Small World is a board game. Star Realms is definitely a full-fledged card game.
Yes.
But Smash Up is a smack dab in between both of those.
You're right.
I think the only thing it doesn't have is a mobile version. There's nothing online that you can play or anything like that. However, it's got some great expansions. It's got some really neat ways that they've built it. Again, I'm not going to tell you everything. I'm going to let my buddy Tony tell you the game mechanics of it. But it is made by a company called AEG, and this is another one. Is this another one of the Kickstarters that you were part of?
I wasn't part of this one. I honestly don't know if this one was Kickstarted or not.
Okay.
The one on the shelf below it was Kickstarted locally here, but no, Smash Up I just kind of found randomly online. I think it was maybe suggested to me by someone.
Okay.
But yeah, once I found it and started to understand the mechanics.
Well, if it was Kickstarted, you would have been a part
absolutely,
of it. And I would have too. We would have supported the entire game.
Definitely.
So AEG, you could just take that if you want to.
Yeah.
So, but Smash Up, Tony, give us the roundabout.
Yeah, Smash Up is again kind of designed to work with the different species or factions or whatever you want to call it. But the goal here is that each player gets the chance to take two different races or two different factions and take those cards. Each of them are a 20-card deck, and you essentially smash them together. You shuffle your two factions together to get one 40-card deck, and then you're playing your two factions against the other players who also have another two kind of factions. So, the original game has factions like robots, wizards, things like this. Very kind of classic, sci-fi, fantasy type of things. As you get into the expansions, they get a little more, a little more focused. There's a science fiction expansion that gives you time travelers and cyborg apes. There's a brand new monsters expansion that gives you vampires and werewolves and things like this. But in the original gives you a good blend of all of that. You've got zombies, aliens, all that good stuff. So it's your choice to kind of pick which two factions you think might work the best together. Maybe you want zombie aliens and you think they'll go together. Each faction kind of has their own specific focus or abilities. Like the zombies, for example.
Pros and cons.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
The zombies are not overly powerful, but their ability is that you can bring a lot of the cards, quote unquote, back from the dead out of your discard pile. You can bring them back. The aliens are moderately powerful, but they're very tricky. They can do things to other players. They can send cards back to their hands. They can abduct people and things like that. So each race has kind of their own ability and drawbacks. There are dinosaurs. The dinosaurs are super powerful, but they're dumb as a box of rocks. They can't really do anything special. They're just really powerful. So So yeah, it's kind of your choice whether you want to, to play the alien zombies and smash them up, the dinosaur wizards, things like that. How you play the game, then once you have your factions, is that there will be there's a set of bases, and each base has a different hit point and it has different abilities. So you get a base that has 20 hit points. Then you and the other players put your minions down on that base. Your deck is comprised of minions and actions. That's it. Minions and actions. Different types of minions and different types of actions. So when your minions go down to the base, you take a point total that's on your minions. Again, the zombies, not overly powerful minions, so they have maybe 1, 2, 3 hit points on them. The dinosaurs get all the way up to 7 or 8 points, the big heavy hitters. Yeah. But when your minions and your opponent's minions are on that base, they accumulate those points. So if there's a base that has 20 points, when you put enough minions on that base that the minions number cumulatively exceeds the base's hit point number, then the base is ready to score. And at that point, you see whoever has the most minion points there gets first place, and there's a certain amount of victory points that you'll get for first place. Second place gets a certain amount. Third place gets a certain amount. First person to 15 victory points wins the game.
Yeah, I think that's what I like so much about it, is it's that perfect mesh between a card game or a deck building game and a board game.
Right.
Because, yes, that has those elements of it's still luck of the draw sometimes, and yes, you still have to build whatever your deck is, i.e. choosing your two different factions and throwing them both together. But the bases is what kind of brings it full circle for me. Where it's like, okay, I've got this. It's not just going to be a quick throw it out there and be done with it. I still have to use strategy in what base I'm going to play it on, how I'm going to play it. Me knowing the two factions that I've got, and Tony having these other factions, I know that if I do this, he's probably not going to be able to respond to it because he doesn't have anything to get rid of it or whatever else.
Right.
So it's a really good mashup. I love that they keep releasing new expansions. Their first expansion was Awesome Level 9000.
Right.
Which is pretty much the go-to when it comes to expansions, I feel. And you've said the same thing.
Yep.
Awesome Level 9000. There is the obligatory Cthulhu set.
Yes, there is that one. That's the one that I haven't got yet, just because that does add not only new cards, but it adds a new game mechanic in, and I'm not quite ready to kind of make that leap to the new mechanic just quite yet.
But the obligatory Cthulhu set, I'm not. That's the one I'm skipping over because I wanted to go towards the science fiction double feature, which has more sci-fi-ishy type of thing. The big geeky box, which is literally the only thing that is in there is the box,
right?
And one faction called
the Geeks.
The Geeks, with our good friend Will Wheaton. Will
right there mixed into the fray.
Absolutely. And then Monster Mash, which you touched on briefly. Monster Mash, I think, is it's the most recently.
Yes, it just came out this Halloween season.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's brand new.
Yeah, I'm not a big horror guy, but that one actually looks kind of interesting with the whole Dracula, giant insects. And then they've got a brand new one coming out early 2015 called Pretty Smash Up, which has got 4 new races or 4 new classes called fairies, mythic horses, princesses, and kitty cats.
Well then.
So
all right.
I don't know. I'm probably going to get that.
It sounds delightful. Absolutely.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I'm very kitty cats. Just in the first sentence alone, kitty cats have the power to compel those of weak will to do what they wish, and the power to have billions of internet memes. Perhaps those are the key. Either way, the kitty cats will use their alluring power to dominate the fight at any base. Then head out for a night of jazzy music in the alleys.
I love it. This spring, things get pretty.
I'm actually kind of excited about that one.
Yeah, that's great.
The only one that I'm not is the Cthulhu. Again, for obvious reasons. I've never been a big Cthulhu fan.
Same.
So I'd rather spend the money. I'd rather spend the money on pretty Smash Up.
Sure.
Just to dominate somebody with princesses and fairies or kitty cats or whatever else.
Sounds great.
How cool would kitty cats and like Frankenstein be?
Kitty cat zombies.
Kitty cat zombies.
Absolutely.
Kitty cat zombies.
Fairy cyborg apes. I mean,
Boom.
the possibilities are limitless at that point. So.
Yeah, well, then you have to get the big geeky box.
Has to have the big geeky box. I have the original Smash Up, and I have 2 expansions: Awesome Level 9000 and Sci-Fi Double Feature. And my box is full. There's no further space.
Got to get the big geeky box.
So I'm gonna have to. So. There's literally no choice from a pure logistics standpoint.
I have to do it.
I have to have it.
Yeah, and don't ask Emily. Just do it.
Well, Christmas is around the corner, but
Tuesday's closer.
This is true. This is true. So
why wait till Christmas when you can have something on Tuesday?
Ding 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 ding.
So there you go. 3 games that you guys should probably check out: Star Realms, Small World, and Smash Up. Yes, they all start with S. That wasn't the intent for us picking those games. Those are just the 3 games that are kind of at the top of our lists of some fun stuff that's been going on. Once again, reach out to us on Facebook or through the interwebs. We have an email address, geekstuffoffthecuff@gmail.com. Hopefully you're having an amazing week, and we'll see you later.
All right. See ya.